I think the even the paper and all the conversations which are happening right now in this space are slightly limited because I think people are just about starting to see the potential of agents plus the combination of the large language.
You might be cutting off a bit.
Those models, and I think it's quite interesting
Humayun's at
to
the
see
airport. It's a little
how
loud.
suddenly, there is a lot of noise about agents as well, but there is quite a lot of actual real tech development which is going ahead. And let me just kind of dig into that a little bit. I mean, even if you look at Google's paper, what is quite clear is that this is step one. What we're saying is there's LLMs, so there's meta agents. These meta agents are learning or understanding what is required, your language. Then you have, like, let's say the orchestration layer. And if you remember last year, we showed this whole orchestration model and Delta V, in which would orchestrate the task and put it all together. So you can see we're kind of following that the same kind of trend which Fetch had been kind of talking about and setting. Just to be clear, I mean, we have all these technologies available, but here's the key point I was trying to get to. At the moment, the agents are mostly one agent to applications in the old-fashioned way, which is the API way. That is very inefficient. That's going to change. And why is it going to change is because, let's say, the meta agents, the initial LLM-based agents, they're just an interface. And as again, just repeating, if you listen to any of my previous spaces on agents, you'll see that these meta AI agents are realistically just an interface. This is now a new type of interface. From there on, you go into the orchestration layer, so it understands and then actually breaks down the task or plans the task, and again, we have this orchestration layer which we talked about, a year and a half, a year ago. Again, that's now technologically developed and functioning. Of course, we're going to keep improving it. But here's another interesting point. So you can make these one-to-one integrations. That's fine, and that's what we're seeing mostly. But what happens when an agent needs to go and make multiple tasks, and it's not just an API-based business, because that's legacy business. That's legacy technology. So we are going to then enter into this new phase where you'll have agents which will connect with each other, and they will do so autonomously. They will search for each other. And that's where the agent stack, which Fetch has been building, comes into place. And the ability for you to actually, on the fly, do dynamically kind of orchestrate tasks and look for agents and connect with them. That does not exist at the moment, and that's where Fetch is, and that's where the agentverse and deployment is, and that's what we expect within the next 3 to 6 months to become the key kind of driver of this technology, because suddenly you will be able to connect not just one agent to one function or one agent to multiple functions, but you will connect multiple agents together, and you will actually just so for example, you would be saying, and this is obviously we'll be releasing that very shortly. You could just go to an agent and say, hey, take this narrative and create a token and list it, and you can do it one-to-one by building one-to-one integrations. But ultimately, what would happen is all these agents will be on Agentverse, and one agent will go and search it and put it together dynamically, and that's what you'll start seeing. This applies to not just Web3 space, but also real-world applications. That's coming, and I think that's where we're going to be quite interesting. And the tech stack that we have not only just takes care of that search and discovery and communication and connectivity, but it also takes care of, if you have a machine learning models, you have foundational models, you can actually build them, you can deploy them, you can put an agent on them, you can make them discoverable, because that's another big problem. How do you make these things discoverable without doing any kind of integration? You can just go to the agent tells you, exactly what the input needs to look like, and it takes the input and then gives you the output in the format that you want. So all of these things are going to now come to fruition, and when they do combine with the compute and the whole stack, you'll start seeing some dramatic impact on this development phase.
It's funny because you said we can kind of circle back 1.5 years ago. We can actually circle back 4 years ago. If you remember, initially we actually worked on the open economic framework, which is precisely this middleware that moves away from the API-based stuff and kind of into effectively an economy that is built for agents, right? Wherein they can have that instruction-based reasoning ability just on an individual agent level, but they also have that kind of ability to connect with other agents and then chain themselves together and really lend themselves to progressively more complex use cases. And so we've kind of really speed ran the era of simple agents in a sense, and we can already see that both the ASI Alliance, but as well as kind of Web2 tech companies in general are kind of searching for that optimized middle layer that really unlocks economies, because agents are very simple interface for the world. And it is in natural language. It's very natural interface to the world. So there's certainly kind of definitive harmony there to be organized and built out. And I'd love to just touch on that middle layer point as well, because we also have the AI engine, which really allows kind of a prompt to turn into an executable, right? So it's not just language in, language out. It's language in, useful economic workout. Can you tie in the AI agent kind of to the overall vertical that the ASI Alliance is working to develop and kind of release throughout 2025 and into the future?
When we say executable, I just want to kind of expand on that a little bit. Execution is reliant on so many things. One of these things is building all these very specific specialist either knowledge graphs or very specific machine learning models or generative AI models. So, for example, if you're doing some drug discovery, at the moment it's quite difficult for drug discovery companies or people with biotech kind of knowledge base. It's quite difficult to lay out the whole. How do you take the data, clean the data? How do you upload it? How do you build a model? How do you deploy it on, and how you do the DevOps and all of that? And they have to go to multiple platforms to do all of that. Well, so if I just take that as an example of this execution kind of part, you could go and you can say to your agent, hey, I mean, I have this input file, and I want this. This is my kind of intent. This is what I want. I want a protein match with something, and the agent goes and deploys the compute, and it actually looks for the right algorithms or right machine learning models, not just one, multiple, and it can actually feed the data into multiple ones without you even worrying about it. Takes the output from them and actually delivers you the results, and then you can actually look at it and say, okay, I want this model to do more of it. Or these are the kind of things which how the software development, how the AI development, and how research in science and technology is going to completely change. And that's one of the reasons why I feel that the next phase you're going to see is, one is the execution, the second is also automation and kind of multiple X speed of research and discovery, because that is fundamentally a very lucrative but very interesting kind of component of this whole AI space. Perhaps less so for the agents, but as you can see, if agents can take all of that tasks and actually break it down and make it very easy for individuals, even who are researching, to do all these tasks, it suddenly becomes very, very achievable, accessible, and actually the rate of the research just kind of exponentially increases. So that's one example of where your execution can really make a difference. You obviously we've talked about many times and many years ago, all the travel thing which we already got working, and it's already there. Once this whole this momentum and the phase of these meme coin type agents is kind of calmed down a bit, then people would start looking for real applications. And as I kind of been saying in many of these spaces before as well, we're building some models and we're building some agents for the infrastructure, as you know, which actually a vehicle to vehicle and vehicle to infrastructure. And now what you're seeing is that vehicles are going to become autonomous. They will need they will need much more autonomy in terms of the agentic terms. So I think these are the kind of extent
If
of
you're
these
just tuning in,
applications which
he's
you're going to see.
in the airport and he's
My
cutting out a little
connection
bit.
dropped for a little bit. Are you guys able to hear me? Nico, give me a mic check.
Mic check, all clear, though you do kind of drop in and out, but we seem to only miss a single word, and so all good. It would be very ironic if your connection, but that seems to be the case. Hopefully everyone else can hear us. Hamayan, can you just mic check, or rather you can feel free to reconnect if you feel like, yep, it seems to be reconnecting. In the meantime, I'd love to give the community a little bit of context. So beneath the hood of the ASI Alliance, there's actually two kind of agentic-based primitives. One is the Universal Agents Framework, which is open source, and it is kind of created by the fetch.ai core team. It's an iteration on the autonomous economic agent framework. And then the second one is Iris, and both of them are somewhat different, right? Because universal agents allow you to effectively set up a shell, right? And that agent itself has an identity, but it also has a wallet and is very compatible with kind of blockchain technologies, particularly Cosmos SDK-based chains. And so what you have is an intelligent task handler that is by default able to make itself discoverable, connect to other agents, and use the chain as an execution layer, which is that just lends itself to a plethora of use cases, not just financial, but broadly speaking, commerce in general. And then on the second, kind of from a different perspective, you have Iris, which is a recently released inferred symbolism kind of reinforcement learning method, which essentially allows an agent to interact with an environment in real time. And so on the one hand, you have the UAgents framework, which allows you to automate, but then with Iris, you effectively have a system that is able to perceive its environment and to dynamically set sub-goals to interact with the environment and then enrich its perception. And so you have both the automation aspect that Hamayan is kind of talking about, as well as the autonomy aspect of agents, which is self-guided ability to execute, right? That is also aligned. And so there's definitely a lot brewing beneath the hood, though I'm certain that we can dive deep into a much more technical discussion into the future. Hamayan, mic check. I see you're back.
Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear.
Alrighty then, perfect. I was just setting the stage for you agents and kind of Iris and giving the community a little bit of context around those. We dropped off just as you were finishing your point on automation, right? And kind of the enhanced autonomy that agentic reasoning has. So feel free to kind of lead from there.
Yeah, I think you picked on Iris, which is exactly the point I was making, that the point, the benefit of these agents is that they can have the cognitive layer within themselves. And if you look at what Singularity has been working on, and hence part of this whole stack, which involves all of this, is, I mean, you're looking at the meta language, which is AI to AI communication. You're looking at distributed atom space, where you're looking at building these knowledge graphs, which are cognitively much more superior. And then you connect these agents, and then they can actually execute those using the compute, which also sits underneath it, and builds it on the compute that sits underneath it. Then you kind of start to see how this all fits together. And again, initially it might not be very clear, but then when you start looking at, okay, how create comes in, how learn comes in, then you actually start seeing the benefit of having all these technologies in kind of in a much more accessible in one place. So that's kind of where I'd probably pause. Yeah.
I would love to kind of have shift the conversation a bit towards the business, right? Because a lot of my friends are business owners, and they've begun exploring agents as a viable method of generating more revenue, not just by automating internal processes, but by really allowing their customers to interact with them via an agent. And you can really see the value in this, particularly in businesses which handle complex queries, because your agent can handle so much of the complaints, so much of the support requests, so much of the actual kind of initial interaction with a customer. I'm curious, do you envision a future where businesses can, sign up sort of for and kind of work with the ASI Alliance's technology as
I could
easy as
probably
if
use
they're
an AI
making a Google
chatbot at
account, for example,
times,
as easy as if they're making an
handle
email
my
or a
customer
Facebook
service
account?
work.
Can we really make it that simple and really allow the technology to penetrate the masses?
Well, I mean, let me start from kind of all these complex tasks that you need to do. What creates complexity here is you're having all these multiple data sets and multiple databases, and you have information distributed around. You have to pull the information together. So for enterprise, that's already been happening, and a lot of this is robotic process automation, which has been around for a while. So for big enterprise, that makes sense. And also, it makes sense when the information is distributed but internal. So when you start putting all of this into the external world, and you have smaller businesses who don't have the resource to kind of have kind of maybe achieve this robotic process automation because it's just not worth it for them to do it, then you start looking at, okay, I mean, what are the easy, simple things, which although the task might be complex, but the companies might not be that big, as you said, then all the things that we are doing, they will make it very, very accessible. So if you have a website and you have an e-commerce system, initially what you would do is you'll create and deploy an agent. Now, you could do it in the sense of, I have an API, I can just give an API to a meta agent. But that's one approach, because that meta agent, whose meta agent is that? Is it Google's meta agent? Is it because don't forget, I mean, you can create these days. I mean, there's a lot of chatter about this agent, AI agent. You put it on LLMs. That's the easy bit. The thing is, okay, whose meta agent is your customer going to use? Whose meta agent are you going to use? Putting a bot on the website doesn't mean anything. What happens is that after that, how do you create that cognitive infrastructure, which actually not only puts the information together, does the automation, does the deployment on the compute if that is needed? Because on the fly, you could just set your budgets and you can say, hey, I mean, this is my budget. If we need to compute and assess something, go and do that. Then it kind of takes away people thinking effectively, and you don't need that much human resource, to actually carry out those complex stuff. So I feel very soon these agents will be able to become very accessible, even to small businesses, and we will see that change. This change is imminent, and I would say it's within this year and next year we're going to start seeing a dramatic increase in agent deployment, even in small business.
I agree
Hopefully
with
that answers you.
I actually agree with that quite a lot. In fact, you can see that so much of the research and so many of the companies are now focused on these technical integration patterns and really drastically simplifying them, right? And so we're in that what they call it middle ground, wherein there's plenty of room for developers because the technical integration patterns still exist, and so there's a little bit of kind of technical hindrance, let's call it, for the business owner there. But on the other hand, everything is getting very fast and very simple, right? Very simple, very fast. And I just love to see that we have both the technological advancement happening, and then in parallel we have those kind of integrations becoming easier to set up.
You can even see ChatGPT's evolution, how easy it got to
Just a
use
mic check
in a very
really
quick
quickly. Can you
time.
hear me?
Yes. No, I'm in agreement, and that makes sense. And hopefully, we will do some more deep dive sessions here. We have, as you know, the train initiative is coming. We have another initiative on agents that's coming,
Can't wait to hear more about
going
Train.
to incentivize people to build agents and deploy them and own them and generate revenue from them very soon. So that's on the roadmap, as you've seen. I mean, I can't give you too specific details, but we'll be announcing something fairly soon on that. So you'll see that coming. We also have, the the knowledge graph-based initiatives which are coming. So all these components need to be kind of in a way brought together in parallel for this whole thing to come together. And I think I'm very, very happy and very positive in the sense that we're on the right track. We're making very good progress technically. And the people we've been speaking to in terms of business have been responding really well. We One of our learn initiative, which is with the hospitals in Africa and underprivileged Asian and African states, has been received quite well. There will be soon many people, many doctors using some of the ASI train initiative to train the models, to actually utilize the models, so generating quite a lot of revenue. I think that's for me is very, very exciting. I'm always
Revenue
going to
means
be
more
building
learns.
technology, but very interested in the commercialization and utilization of it. And as I've been saying always, we need utility in this space, and I think that's coming with agents, with AI. That's why, and ultimately, that's why I'm quite happy and comfortable with the fact that the earn and burn is going to be successful, because as we earn, we burn more, and yeah, and the token, and you'll see increasing values of the token burn.
I'd just like to give a shout out to some of
That's
the
what we want to see.
developers, but really to the entire community, though, because they've been incredibly kind of persistent, and they've really held us to a high standard over the years, which has allowed us to work in this shared, what I would now consider an aligned direction together, in part optimizing for the tokenomics and the ability for people to really co-own an AI, co-own an agent, as well as create and deploy that agent. And then on the developer side, over 2023, but in particular 2024, we saw a massive rise in the amount of hackathons that we organized. And so this conscious education of developers globally has really kickstarted. Shout out to Rishank, who's our DevRel lead, and whom I consider has done an incredible job in organizing hackathons across India, as well as kind of the wider Asian region there. And then in Europe, we've had through Germany, in the UK as well. And now we're probably going to gear up for kind of a session in the States. In fact, we've already had multiple through the Innovation Lab initiative. And so we have devs being onboarded, and we will be providing analytics for that. We have the underlying technology, the entire effectively tech stack knitting itself together, right? Being developed in parallel such that we can actually reach a point where a hospital or a trucking company or a restaurant or a barber, really just anyone, can extract economic utility in this autonomous manner. And it is a pleasure to be here. I just like to, it's a pleasure and a privilege to be able to host these podcasts. I'd like us to focus on the roadmap a bit. It is the dawn of the new year, and you've already kind of shed light on the train and the Cortex initiatives, as well as the kind of continuous burn that we'll be providing clarity around. Are there any other milestones or key initiatives that you'd like to shed light on?
Yeah, so initiative, I can tell you, we've already released the roadmap, so you can kind of look at that. And I think as we progress through the year, you'll see more and more detail come through. But there are 3 or 4 main initiatives that I really want to speak about. One of them is obviously, as we talked about, is ASI train. That is to take foundational models, not just language foundation models, but specialist foundation models for different verticals, for different technological kind of divisions, and actually deploying them, training them, and making them usable via agents. That's going to be our core focus over the next 3 months, because I'll try and explain to you why that is really quite important. As I explained to you, doing one-to-one integrations with, let's say, OpenAI's kind of LLM, putting an agent there, and making some functional integrations with 1 or 2 things is okay. But you have to still do quite a lot of how do these integrations, who who gives the feed into the information into, and I gave you an example on the biotech, how that would suddenly change. All of these, all of these things are reliant partly on having these machine learning models, foundational models, which can actually understand the vertical. And, kind of one of the reasons why we called artificial superintelligence is because the superintelligence means there's an in-depth, better than human knowledge of that vertical. So I think that is very, very important initiative, and because the not just the width of the whole sectors that we're going to cover, but there is a real utility and a real need for such models to exist and for making them accessible in a decentralized way. I touched on these hospital models, I mean, radiology, blood tests. All of these models have real application, and the underprivileged areas in the world cannot build these models. They don't have the resource. And if we're building them, it's easier for somebody to pay $50 or $200 for a in-depth AI-based analysis of a perhaps a radiology kind of scan than actually hiring some doctors and actually building that model yourself. So there is a true application. Of course,
See where the
the
cost
cost will keep
savings
coming
would be
down
there.
and the prices will keep coming down, but that's real revenue that's going to be available very, very soon. So I'm really excited about that. So that's one initiative. The other initiative, which is quite interesting, again, as we said, is the agents, because the agents are the ones which actually take these models and actually create commercial value around them because you're building applications using them. So we have another very big initiative which we haven't fully released yet, but we will be talking about it very soon. That will be to take developers, to take devpreneurs to actually start building applications which utilize these machine learning AI and large language models to actually build agent-based applications, and that's the phase we're going to be heading into, because that's where the market is also heading into. So you'll see an exponential growth there, and I think that's a very, very interesting initiative which is coming. And ultimately, I think what is I'm also quite excited about is this Create platform that we have already showcased a little bit. By using that Create platform, you'll be able to not only build your model, monetize your model, build your agent, monetize your agent, deploy compute as and when required in a decentralized way, pay for it in a decentralized way, and actually build these applications which are much more accessible. Like Nico, you were saying, I mean, can we make it accessible enough? So that's doesn't need very complex development work, but can be done. So these three initiatives I'm the most excited about, and we're working hard to get them out, and I'm really excited. And I think you'll start seeing them like very, very soon. Like within this month, we'll start the train, and I think you'll see much more coming out there.
In the month, that's
I just
nice.
like
I
wonder if there's an AI
just
agent
wanna
that
do
can
a
put together
time
my
check
new
here because
lights.
my flight is in 15 minutes. Actually 20 minutes. So I really need to make my way. So we have 10 minutes. Let's I want to open it up for questions, and that'll be great.
Perfect. Perfect. Let's open the floor for questions, ladies and gentlemen. If you have a question, feel free to raise your hand. Greg, feel free to kind of invite audience members to be as curious as they'd love to. Alrighty then, and in the meantime, while we're waiting for people to kind of raise their hands, I'd just like to remind everyone that feel free to go through the last 4 articles that we've published on X. They're very accessible, and they would allow you to really gain context-specific awareness on the depth of the impact of the ASI Train initiative, the inaugural model, which is Cortex, and then dive deep into how kind of training foundational model relates to agents, and then really increasing their viability. There's certainly depth and breadth to the topic that sadly we can't hone in on, but for those of us that are more curious, feel free to explore our articles tab, and I'm certain that you'll be able to kind of really dive deep into the topic and explore. And in the meantime, Greg, are there any questions that? Alrighty then, we seem to not have any questions. Hermione, we might cut this short, though. I'd love to end with a question, were you able to rest during the holidays? Were you able to connect with family? Did you have a great time?
It's not time for rest, man. We have work to do. There's a lot, and the pace at which technology is getting developed is crazy. We have to keep up with it. Yeah, I mean, my life-work balance is work is life and life is work, right?
Yep. I agree with that. I definitely do.
But I think these are very exciting times, and I think we're going to see. I mean, as you saw, I don't believe everything which Sam says or quite a few others say, but yeah, I mean, I think you heard about the AGI that we will achieve it this year. I mean, just this is in the traditional sense. I don't say AGI is just this year, but I think if you look at it, the progress we've made towards actually doing all the tasks which we felt were AGI based tasks, these are now achievable. And any of our community members who've been following this, I mean, we've been talking about agents like building. It's easy to say agent and build one agent with a LLM attached to it, or maybe just the graphics piece attached to it. But to build a infrastructure where you can actually truly make these things to connect and work is slightly more complex and perhaps a lot more lucrative in the long run than a short, flash in the pan type approach of just building quick one-to-one agents. But anyway, what we're hoping is that you will see a lot of agent speak populating Agentverse and the actual ability for the market to actually start using those. That's very very soon, and it's around the corner.
You heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. It is around the corner, populating the Agentverse with agents, bootstrapping the ecosystem through the Train initiative, and kind of really opening up the doors for what I would consider easier integrations and adoption of the agents technology. As always, we'll continue hosting these Spaces sessions. Feel free to tune in whenever you feel like it, and we are very receptive and welcoming of questions. And if anyone is looking for more depth on the matter, feel free to explore our latest articles. And
I guess they didn't see my request.
Thank you for mine for your time. Thank you to the entire community for tuning in.
That's okay.
And Greg, I believe we can wrap it up.
Thank you, guys.
All right, so that's that. Yeah, so I guess they didn't see my request to speak, which is fine. I mean, that happens or whatever. I know X spaces can be a little glitchy. I was going to ask Humayun to give us an example of some of the companies or instances that are using AI agents from FET right now. That's been something that I keep getting questions about, and we can go on and we can take a look at. Obviously, I have done this. The Agentverse, which kind of gives you insight into what the agents can do, and basically ones that have already been set up, but we don't know who's using them, and that might be information that they're not allowed to provide just for privacy reasons. But I was going to ask them for some, just some examples of a couple of companies maybe that are using FET's agents right now. But obviously, X doesn't sometimes work very well. I did have my request to speak in, and they didn't seem to get it. So I'm kind of assuming there might have been something glitchy with their X space, but that's okay. So yeah, I have some new things for my office. I've got some new lighting and things like that, and some. I'm just going to try and do a little bit of a makeover in my background and such. So I was just kind of fidgeting around with some stuff. This is probably my ADHD, but that's okay. And I was listening into everything that Humayun had mentioned, and he went over a lot of the things that we talk about actually on the channel, and just kind of basically how AI agents work and how they cooperate together. And he also reinforced his belief in. He did actually mention that he was bullish on the AI, the earn and burn, and what he likes to see. And he doesn't want to just burn tokens for the hell of it. And I 100% agree with this. I think it should be revenue based. this is a legitimate utility company, and if they are making money and we are the investors, giving back to us is a way, the burn is a way to give back to those people who have been here and have been holding, right? And I really see his vision in that perspective, and I think they're on the right path, in my opinion. I think some of these projects that just burn to create hype, people just buy in so they can get in on the burn, and then away they go. It doesn't really add value to the project. It doesn't really add long-term investors. It doesn't really add a ton of it's very temporary hype is what I'm going to call it. And I really don't like the temporary hype type projects. I'd rather see something like this where they are long-term focused. They are making a sustainable revenue base, and they're going to burn some tokens to kind of not compensate, but to basically reward us for being there and for being there long term. And I really like their model. I like Humayun's, the way he thinks. He's a very, very intelligent person. It's too bad that he was waiting to get on a plane or whatever, but we could have maybe got some more information out of him. But obviously we have the ASI roadmap, and I did a video on that. I also did a video on the agent first that we talked about. I do videos on a number of different things, ASI. And so yeah, just make sure you guys, subscribe to the channel or follow me on X if you're watching on there as well. And obviously, we'll break everything down as it comes. The burn's supposed to start tomorrow. So it's tomorrow's the 10th, and that's our first burn date. So we're going to be burning, I believe it's 5 million FET. But yeah, we'll see how this revenue generation thing goes. I'd like to see see how it's going to go over the course of 2025, see how many tokens that we can burn within the year, and that will tell you how much the company's bringing in too, right? Tell you how profitable ASI is being in the ecosystem, right? So that's pretty much what I got for you guys right now. I'm going to go put my lights together. I'll probably have some more videos. I'll probably do a video on this later as well. I'm going to, kind of go back over some of my notes and stuff like that, and make sure I didn't miss anything. And I'll catch you guys later. I really appreciate you guys tuning in. Thank you so much for hanging out with me during this X space, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.